Hello you, and welcome to the last Daily Rundown of the week with me, Dan Morfitt. You're watching Channel 7, and this is the show where we look at all of the day's big stories. Tonight we'll be discussing, amongst many things, doctors' talks reopening, the Trump, and the fastest taxi in the world. But first, let's welcome tonight's guests, who will supply the Daily Rundown with their insights and attitude. He's the boss, he's the VIP, he's the championship, he's the most tip-top comedian, Stephen Armstrong, and he's available to do ads for building societies.
I am, yes, almost all over the country. Yeah. Some would say nationwide and other.
No, Halifax.
No, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't look like. No. Yes, I think we've confused each other.
Yes.
Top Cat.
Top Cat.
I'm with you now.
I've done you the Top Cat tune.
I'm a little bit slow. You mentioned championship, and it's a bad word.
However, Stephen does live in a bin. And also, welcome back to pop culture party warrior, spoken word artist and comedian, Madie Howard.
Hello.
And you are wearing amazing new shoes.
I am. Thanks.
We'll show them on camera very, very soon. They're red and felty. Stephen and Madie, thank you for joining us as ever on the Daily Rundown. And don't forget, you can get involved in the show too. We're as interactive as you like. Joining the conversation on Twitter @The Daily Rundown, or at the very least, give us a follow. We want followers because that would be nice. Right, our first story tonight is about the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges. They've welcomed the agreement from the government and the British Medical Association to return to talks over the new junior doctors' contract in England. The Academy had appealed for both sides to end the disputes after strikes and thousands of cancelled operations. Junior doctors have been striking over plans to impose new working conditions. Now, the government has halted the imposition of the new contracts for a business week, and the British Medical Association has also agreed to stall any new threats of strikes, also for 5 days. Talks over the controversial new contracts broke down originally in February. So, the new junior doctor contract, is this the beginning of the end, or is it the end of the beginning? Madie, what do you think about this?
I think it's strange that they've decided to pause it and that they've done it for 5 days. But I think it's awesome that they've said, there won't be any strikes for 5 days, kind of hinting that...
Well, it's not strikes for 5 days, but no talk of strikes for 5 days.
Yeah, saying that they won't threaten to strike for 5 days. Because the fact that they're pausing it just seems like they're kind of stalling. And I just don't think it's enough of a reaction. I just don't think it's strong enough.
Stephen, what do you think? Is it good that they've all agreed to get back around the table again?
Well, I think it is good that they've decided to get around the table. I don't know whether I would believe that there is a true kind of sense that they want to negotiate. I think it may be the sign that the junior doctors have won the PR battle. I don't think the government have come back to the table because they've had a look at it and thought, do you know what, maybe we were a little bit wrong there. I think they've come back to the table because finally the message has got through to the government that the public are kind of on the side of doctors. Generally, I think, I would say.
Bizarrely, this has been quite a fast-moving story today, as opposed to the snail-like pace for the last few months. Only this morning, a Department of Health spokesman was said to say, it is now too late to change the process of bringing in contracts. And they've changed it. That's a good thing, though, surely, for any government to sort of swap position or even come back to the table when they refuse not to. That's a good thing.
I mean, it is good. I mean, obviously, we want people to negotiate and come to a peaceful resolution. But I think that I'm from an area of the country and a decade of human history where I was taught that the only thing that the working man and woman can do, withdraw, is their labour, and I'm behind them. I kind of, hospitals are an area of they confuse me a little bit.
They've normally got lots of signs in them.
Yeah, true. So. Well, recently my partner fell foul of the laws of gravity and bad paving and injured her ankle. So we went to the local infirmary, and every time I go to hospitals, I think it's more, the message doesn't need to go to the junior doctors. I think the message more needs to go to people that if you're in hospital, then hanging around the outside smoking cigarettes is not the greatest thing to do. So I think that the health service has a lot of questions to answer, and I think that the doctors' contracts have been a distraction maybe from the bigger movements that we need to get within the health industry, and maybe this will sign the end of this issue. But I think that the issues of contracts are always going to be a sensitive issue, because we're asking people to work longer hours for, for a slightly altered package. But I think that, maybe if we get past this issue, we can look at more of the pressing issues that the health service has to face.
Madie, this 5-day pause, do you think it's good that it's sort of coming from the front pages of the newspapers and the main bulletins of our news on the TV to something a bit more private? Maybe it should have been there a long, long time ago.
What, discussed privately instead? Well, yeah, I suppose so. Although, with what you said about how the junior doctors have won the PR game, I'd say that is basically the motivation for reconsidering. And even though that's a minor victory, I'm kind of worried about the end goal, whether private, whether public. I think the more that it's public, the more that it puts pressure on the government to listen to the junior doctors, because the majority of people are. Although when I do speak to people, they do say that in terms of working on Saturdays, most people do work 9 to 5 and they want to go to the doctor on Saturdays. So there are parts of the contract that a lot of people do agree with. And I think that a big reason that the government have said that they need to be still talking about Saturdays is because they've kind of tapped into that, like they know.
This is the Saturday working, though, is to get people in hospital, because they've had some statistics that show more people die in hospital at the weekends. Although statistics can be used and they can always represent something that you want to show or maybe not want to show. I think with this issue, the Saturday working, the difference in their working hours, and the safety issues that the junior doctors are talking about are all well and good. And I think it's the same for the government, who are saying, well, we're all working 24/7 lives now. We're working shift patterns. Maybe if we just mix it up. I think both sides have got some ground to compromise on. Do you think that would be a good thing, Stephen?
Well, I think compromise is always... I think generally compromise is the best way, because I think everybody comes to a situation with their own best interests. I think that what you have to realise is that in the middle ground is perhaps maybe the best way forward. And I think moving forward, hopefully, the public do seem to be behind the junior doctors, but I have noticed that there are other elements and other areas of the National Health Service that hopefully, if we get this resolved, that the junior doctors will offer their support as well, so that maybe the junior doctors need to be aware that...
That's where that compromise could come in between the government and the doctors.
Yes, exactly, and I think that the junior doctors need to realise that although the public opinion is still with them, that this is a... once you engage in the game of public opinion, you need to be aware of the fact that you take on a certain amount of the role and responsibility, so that then, yes, maybe the junior doctors do get this through. Then maybe the maternity nurses and sort of maybe oncology care and an issue close to my heart, mental health issues within the health service. There's a lot of good work being done in that area, but there's always more work that can be done. And I think generally moving together, I don't want to sound like we all want to live in a commune, but I think moving together we can help each other, and that compromise is a lesson that both sides can learn. And as you say, there's room on both sides, I think.
What happened as well, it was an unprecedented action for them to go on strike, but they also had the support of their seniors, who backed them up in services when they went on strike on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. So I think both sides have sort of seen how far they can push each other now. And now it's going to go more private. I don't know if this is happening through ACAS, the conciliatory service, or if this is just them getting back around the table and talking. But I think you're right in saying, if they sort out these contracts, then there's more questions and more obstacles to step over with the NHS in the next few months. Do you think the doctors have shown themselves in a good light in this? Because striking is always hopefully the last resort. They never wanted to strike, but they felt so hard done by and possibly unlistened to in this. Do you think they'll come out of it even better at the end?
Yeah, I think it's really flagged up just how ridiculous they felt the imposition of the contracts were, and certain parts of the contract. And so it's also shown how far they're willing to go. Because obviously there were some junior doctors who were saying that they wouldn't support the strikes, but very few. And the fact that the majority would, and it's so clearly a last resort. it does just show that the government weren't right to force it on them, which of course, you're not right to do that anyway. But touching on what you said, I do think it's opened up the possibility for debate wider, sort of within the NHS and mental health and things like that. Now that they've done direct action, I think that the debate could happen on other issues.
I think, Stephen, as well, you picked upon a really good point in that when you go to hospital and you see people outside smoking, not even in like a smoking hut.
No.
Maybe this has changed the opinion of the public at large, thinking maybe we've taken our NHS for granted over the last few years. Maybe we've just never cared about our own personal health because the NHS will mop it up for us.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to change the debate again and think, well, yeah, it will be nice to have a 7-day health service, but I've got to have responsibility for my own actions too.
Well, that's it. I mean, that is the issue. I think that again, you kind of, I don't want to sense that I'm by no means an angel in this situation, but yeah, if you go into an A&E department on a Saturday, the people who are there, who need help and assistance may not get assistance because people, as you say, don't have that duty and care and attention. I'm not suggesting that when the doctors went on strike, we all stopped running with scissors and putting jam in the toaster or whatever we do. Because don't do any of that. Yeah, marmalade, yes, jam, no.
No, not even that.
Nutella?
No spreads, condiments. Into toasters, please.
Okay, well, see, that's where we differ. We come from very different worlds, me and you, Dan.
Please don't do that.
But we can anyway, I'm not going through a line of this. But I think that, back to the health service. Who wins?
But we'll find out again, hopefully, in 5 business days' time. I don't know what they're doing at the weekend, but I'd surely be working. Right, time for a quick break now, but the three of us will be back in just a couple of minutes to discuss more of the news on the Daily Rundown, including Trump, joy of joys, and the end of a new day. Pop a cork or just boil a kettle, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.